Greetings, everyone. Merry Christmas. Happy Diablo. So, we'd like your likes, subscribe to your subscriptions. We might comment on your comments, and let's enjoy this review of the original Diablo, but with the mod Beezlebub, which turns it into High Definition Diablo, or HDiablo. What is Diablo? Well, in terms of the game, anyway, it is an action RPG or real-time RPG that's based heavily on old roguelikes. So, NetHack or Ancient Domains of Mystery, ADOM, and so on. So, why review this game when Diablo 2 and 3 and 4 and Immortals have been out? Because the Actman. So thank you, Mr. Actman. He recommended the original Diablo. Now, back many years ago, I played the original Diablo. I loved it, but I pretty much only played multiplayer, just because I wanted to be able to play online with other people. I played plenty of solo games offline, and at least at that time, like 97, 98, it was, well, novel to be able to play a game like this online. And cooperatively. Mind you, was not the first cooperative RPG to be able to be played online, at least graphically, but it was an early one, and I was glad for that. So there. So, mind you, the original Diablo has a variety of randomly populated quests. There's a specific preset list of quests. For example, the Butcher is a famous one. The Map of Stars is perhaps a less famous one. The Poisoning of the Well is one. A King Leoric in his tomb is another quest, and so on and so forth. By default, all these things are randomly generated, or at least which ones you get access to on a particular single-player campaign run, well, those are random. But for the Diablo 1 Beelzebub mod, all of them are included, including cut content from the original game. So that's good. Beelzebub also improves the inventory. So it adds 2 sets of weapons that you can hold on to at a time like Diablo 2. It turns gold from 5,000 gold stacks, each taking up a slot in your inventory, to something that's just taking up 1 slot in your inventory if you have any money. It might be a technical limitation. The original Diablo, at least with Beelzebub, offers a lot of technical improvements over the base game. So instead of it being one continuous game where you can't grind for experience, it acts more like later Diablo games, where every time you start where you start the game and you start a new game on any difficulty with any character, it just resets the environment, so all the enemies are back, all the creatures are back. So yes, you can just grind for experience to some degree and grind your way out of problems, but you can't grind that much. You can't grind that much past the difficulty limit, because after a certain point, you just stop getting experience at all, or you get so little experience that it's not worth your time, so you're just better off moving on to the next difficulty. Diablo 1, Beelzebub, has 3 difficulties of the original: Normal, Nightmare, and Hell, and you must beat Normal to get to Nightmare, Nightmare to get to Hell, but there's also Torment difficulty, which you must beat Hell to access. This is unlike the original Diablo, where you only had to be level 20 to access Nightmare and level 30 to access Hell, the difficulties. So, what's so great about this one compared to Diablo 4? Diablo 1 focuses on one location, Tristram, and the labyrinth, the church, the catacombs, the caves, and hell under it. 16 floors, plus some side content for quests like the Butcher's Lair, King Leoric's Tomb, and the Arcane Sanctuary. Yes, the Arcane Sanctuary was cut content in Diablo 1, but it was repurposed in Diablo 2. So, yeah, the characters have stuff to say about the quests, some more so than others. For example, the early quest, The Butcher, has a lot to sorry has everyone commenting on it. So there are 8 NPCs in town, and everyone except, well, Tremaine, the priest, has something to comment on regarding it. As opposed to later quests where things are just more obscure and there's just less to say. So, for example, uh, the late game quest Map of Stars. If you talk to Wirt, he's basically like, I don't know what's going on. Don't bother me about it. So, why did I like the original Diablo so much and Diablo 4 not very much? And yes, some of it was because I was more familiar with the original Diablo, but I've played tens or hundreds of hours of Diablo 1 and 2, and I played enough of Diablo 3 to beat it once and then play again on a higher difficulty with a friend. So I'm like, what made Diablo 1 so great but Diablo 4 not? I say a major reason is because Diablo 1 was clearly made to appeal to players and not feel like a cash grab. It was Blizzard's first game to be able that had access to BattleNet or Battle.net or BNet, however you call it. And I know that StarCraft and Diablo 2 and other future games would build off the BattleNet platform. But it was a novelty to be able to play a cooperative RPG online back in the day, back in, well, 97, 98. But the game was also made in a more deliberate sense. So while later games did focus more on action, like how quickly can you run through a zone, killing everything in sight. Basically, you could you could run through. For example, Diablo 4. If you play as a druid with Thunderstorm and Cyclone, you could just click in one direction, close your eyes, and kill everything along the way with little problem. In Diablo 1, uh, even basic enemies can give you trouble, especially if you're a melee character. So yes, I've played in Diablo 1 every base class. But I prefer the Sorcerer just because I've liked playing ranged characters. I like playing casters because they've had options. In Beezlebub, they're like something like 30 to 40 spells you can get. Plus, every class gets access to certain individual skills. So, for example, if you're a sorcerer of high enough level, you can put on Mana Shield and blow everything away with spells, and then your health pool doesn't matter unless, one, you're out of mana, or two, you're casting a spell that requires HP instead of MP to cast. So Diablo 1 has the charm of personality, whereas in Diablo 4, it's just, here's a guy who does a thing. Here's a guy who does a thing. And it's like, Diablo 4, can you name me one merchant, any merchant, that has any distinct personality in Diablo 4? If you play Diablo 1 or 2, do you know who Griswold is? Do you know who Adria is? I'm giving you time to let that sink in. I know, Diablo 1 just feels restrictive. It isn't like you can explore a tremendously large overworld like in Diablo 2, or maybe 3, or maybe 4. But it's quality of content, even if the journey is shorter than in Diablo 2 or 3 or 4. So overall, I do recommend it, and Diablo 1 is available for purchase on GOG.com. The Beelzebub mod does not include any of the unofficial Hellfire expansion content, which is something that I could talk about in another review, but in short, Hellfire was an unofficial expansion that was authorized, or a non-canonical third-party expansion that was authorized by Blizzard, that added some classes, that added 2 new zones, uh, added some bosses, some gear, and was not compatible with Battle.net and was not compatible in general with the original game. So there. It was basically more stuff, but you're giving up on Battle.net access for it. So, so yes, Diablo. If you're playing Diablo 1 in modern times, just use the Beezlebub mod. Massive quality of life improvements. And yeah, that's that. So you can consider this some sort of Halloween thing right before Christmas. Thank you, everyone. Good night. God bless. Merry Christmas. Smile. Lord Jesus loves you. Bye now.